With direct fire, Ukrainian soldiers destroyed the occupier shelter in the Pokrovsk direction. The soldiers note that they continue to deliver precise strikes on enemy positions, demoralizing the personnel of the Russian army.
Turning on the drone. Turning on the drone. We're waiting for it to charge with the controller, checking the video feed, checking the arm, and if everything is good, we take off.
According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Ukrainian soldiers repelled the most attacks by the occupiers, specifically in the Pokrovsk direction. There, the invaders made 32 unsuccessful attempts to push the defenders from their positions.
The Pokrovsk direction was important for the Russian Federation last year as well. We expected it. Let's put it this way. Let's start from the beginning. Based on the pace of the Russian army's advance, we expected that around September or October, battles for the city of Pokrovsk itself could begin, right there on the ground. That would mean entering the city, assault groups, everything as it should be. But again and again, thanks to the Ukrainian command, thanks to the Ukrainian military, and to Mr. Drapatov personally, the commander who was appointed specifically for this direction, they managed to stop, to bog down the Russian advance.
Since the beginning of the day, 19 more assaults were repelled in the Novopavlivka direction, 14 in the Torets direction, and 17 in the Siversk-Slobozhansk and Kursk directions. As military experts note, the enemy continues to send its soldiers into so-called meat assaults in these sectors of the front, as well as towards Sumy, and is suffering significant, and in some areas even catastrophic, losses.
The enemy didn't really think about losses before, and probably still doesn't today, because they keep trying to attack, even if it's with small groups, mostly assault teams, groups of up to 7 or 10 people. These are sabotage and reconnaissance groups that are operating quite actively. And the forces that were gathered at this location amount to about 1 combined arms army, which, of course, prevents the enemy from advancing further and especially from attacking the city of Sumy.
Ukrainian soldiers posted footage of the destruction of one of the so-called meat grinder Russian attacks. They noted that this time, the Russians sent bikers into the assault. The result was destroyed motorcycles and the entire assault group wiped out. It was spring on the ground. Animals and birds were flying. Only fascism today wasn't lucky on this earth. Ukrainian soldiers say that when planning combat operations, they take everything into account, right down to which road to take and what position the sun is in at that moment so that it blinds the enemy in the eyes.
We take everything into account, the elevation map, and even the timing of the approaches. For example, if we're making an approach in the evening, the sun is setting and it shines right into the Russians' eyes. That means that drones can't see as well anymore, there's glare. Plus, if you're driving along the tree line and the sun is on that side, then from a distance, when they're looking and zooming in, it already looks like night along the tree line. It's already dark.
Ukrainian sappers also shared stories about their effective work. The soldiers noted that the enemy tried to break through the defense forces' positions, but got stuck in one of the minefields. In fact, almost all the armored vehicles the Russians sent in for the assault were blown up.
The commander sends me all these videos, and I tell him, well, that's how it's supposed to work. I said, see, it wasn't for nothing that I crawled around out there, setting all those mines, and that's awesome. In a short period of time, we destroyed 3 BTR-82s and 1 armored vehicle. There were also personnel there, who were eliminated as well. In my opinion, the operation was very effective.
A video showing similarly effective destruction of the Russian occupiers' logistics was published by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky. He noted that thanks to the work of Ukrainian soldiers, the burned Russian equipment and detonated ammunition never made it to the front lines.
Since the beginning of the year, Ukrainian soldiers have destroyed about 20,000 units of Russian occupiers' vehicles. That's thousands of tons of destroyed ammunition, equipment, and fuel that the enemy never received. I thank all the defenders, both men and women, for their professional and effective combat work. Oleksandr Syrsky, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, on Facebook.
According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, just in the past day, Ukrainian soldiers eliminated 1,200 Russian troops. Also, yesterday, 7 enemy armored vehicles, 18 artillery pieces, and 1 air defense system were destroyed. In addition, 95 drones were shot down and 79 Russian vehicles and pieces of special equipment were hit.
As a result of the massive Russian strike, 14 people have been killed and more than 100 injured. Our colleague Kristina Dombrovskaya is on the ground at the center of events. She will bring us all the latest details about the Russian attack on the Ukrainian capital. Kristina, over to you.
Greetings, colleagues. On the night of June 16th to 17th, the aggressor country Russia once again terrorized Ukraine and the Ukrainian capital Kyiv with massive shelling. One of the missiles, unfortunately, struck a 9-story residential building in Kyiv, destroying an entire entrance section. This was reported by the Minister of Internal Affairs, Zyar Klemenko. At this point, the exact type of missile is still unknown. The investigation is working to determine that. More information on this will be available a bit later, because earlier there were reports that cluster munitions were used on Kyiv. We spoke with eyewitnesses who miraculously managed to escape from under the rubble.
6 floors. The top 6 floors are destroyed, and the first, second, third. Do you see what's happening there? It's horrific there.
We were here in the passageway, and my mom and nephew were at home. But when the strike happened, they managed to get out and come down to us. There was a cook there, and some acquaintances too. They're gone. They all died.
Still under the rubble?
Yes, that's accurate. She hasn't made contact. She was on the 2nd or 3rd floor. She worked as a cook at store. She died with her nephew, and he was a displaced person, either from Donetsk or Dnipro.
According to the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, as of now, 2 residents, a man and a woman, have been rescued from under the rubble of the 9-story building. A little later, they managed to unblock to recover the body of another man. Unfortunately, there is still no information about his condition. We've been promised that this information will be provided a bit later. Nevertheless, the rescuers are not losing hope and are still trying to find survivors. At this moment, according to the information available, there could have been anywhere from 4 to 14 residents in this section of the building. The State Emergency Service has promised us that the full picture will only become clear after the debris has been cleared.
During the war, we have gained such tremendous experience that we can clear rubble like this very quickly. But in this case, it's impossible to make predictions. That's why we know what our enemy is capable of. If they don't interfere with us and don't launch aircraft or fire missiles, the emergency rescue operations will go much faster.
In total, the Russians used 175 drones against Kyiv, more than 14 cruise missiles, and at least 2 ballistic missiles.
Here's an interesting find. The State Emergency Service and the police collected these little balls you see here. This is the filling of a cluster rocket. These small balls are inside to inflict maximum casualties on people. There's no other word for this but genocide. They're doing everything to kill as many people as possible, using such munitions to attack a peaceful city.
Officially, the State Emergency Service of Ukraine informed us that, as of this moment, 14 people are known to have died. The number of injured in Kyiv has risen to 114, and 48 have been hospitalized.
Kristina, thank you for such comprehensive information. Let me remind you, we were joined by Kristina Dombrovskaya, a correspondent for Freedom TV channel. She is at the site of one of the Russian army's strikes on the Ukrainian capital.